Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Therefore, no current or prospective client should assume that the future performance of any specific investment strategy, including the investments and/or investment strategies recommended and/or purchased by advisor, or product made reference to directly or indirectly, will be profitable. Different types of investment involve varying degrees of risk, and there can be no assurance that any specific investment will either be suitable or profitable for a client's investment portfolio. No client or prospective client should assume that any information presented serves as the receipt of or substitute for personalized investment advice from the advisor or any other investment professional.
Welcome to the Bullington Capital Report, hosted by Bill Bullington. For the next hour, you'll receive information on current market conditions and trends that could affect your financial future. If you have a question, you can participate in today's program by calling 216-901-0945. That's 216-901-0WHK. You can also reach Bill by going to his website, bullingtoncapital.com. And now, here's Bill Bullington.
Well, welcome back. Like the man said, this is Bill Bullington. I'm here every Saturday morning from 11 to noon. If you hear anything you'd like more information on, feel free to reach out to me. My website is bullingtoncapital.com. And you go, there's a contact us form right on that webpage. That again is bullingtoncapital.com. And actually, outside of the, what's really funny is the norm anymore used to be really upsetting. Now we're getting used to it. So hadn't been a whole lot of blow-ups this week. No more than usual in the over the past few years, but that's okay, I guess. And a lot of I'm just looking at some economic statistics to see where a lot of the growth is coming from, and it's pretty amazing. West Virginia is actually one of the highest in the country. That was kind of weird, but Ohio is okay. Right near the middle, somewhere in the middle, and other states, Texas. I wonder why Utah is doing so well. Well, a lot of southern states doing very, very well last couple quarters, and which is good to see. One of the things I often think about, I don't really talk about it that frequently, is when you look back over the past 100 years or so, the things that have come along, the advances in technology. I mean, it's really hard to think about us not having trains. That was actually mid-1800s. But before that, I mean, what did people do? Then the automobile started getting really popular right around the turn of the century. That was a big deal. You had a couple of major wars, and unfortunately, we had a couple of major wars, and that does push things, development, very fast, and then to repair all the damage that's been done. I guess the silver lining to having to have to go through all that is that it actually promotes real growth. That's the ripping off the Band-Aid. But there have been an unbelievable number of developments that are going on now that they're not real obvious yet. And that's kind of the way that progress is made in the United States, at least in my opinion. I've only been watching this since I was in high school because I was always just kind of curious. But it's kind of interesting that you'll see something start to show up in newspapers, magazines, on television, and then it kind of goes away, and then it comes back, and then when people have almost given up on it, all of a sudden there's a breakthrough. I can't remember how long ago I was talking about electric cars, and when you say that, everybody goes, "Oh yeah, well everybody knows Tesla." Okay, well there was this company called Nissan. You may have heard of them. and they had this car called the Leap, and it was before Elon Musk had made his first Tesla, and I thought it was pretty funny, um, and I thought it was really interesting that they would think that that would be something that would happen. But now I'm looking at it, and yeah, it's it's a real deal, and it's not going to go away. I don't care what kind of problem they're having right now. Um, Solar panel, which I've talked about till kind of blue in the face, but they still increase their efficiency by a lot each and every year. They're getting better and better at capturing more of the energy, natural energy that comes from the sun. And so those are big drivers. Those industries are astronomical, and it's not like we're ever going to stop using electricity. And electricity demand's growing faster than the population growth is. So, bottom line is there are a lot of drivers. There are a lot of things that should be done are being done. Going to make our lives easier when they are done, and everything that you hear negative, it's temporary. It's literally going away. So never a straight, smooth ride. And I know if you're everybody thinks, or well, not everybody, but an awful lot of people think that by the time they retire, it's going to smooth out for them so they can enjoy their retirement and get nice even return. I got news for you. The market doesn't care about what you want. It doesn't care about what I want. And the markets are going to do what markets going to do. And there are lots of ways today that this is what's really different in my industry over the past, I don't know, 30 years. 30 years ago, it was, there were actually a lot more stocks than there are today. I mean, the numbers it's probably, 350% of what they are now. And it was unbelievable. I have a hard time believing that it's actually been reduced down to this number. And so it's kind of interesting. There's a little over 3,000 stocks, basically, that are big enough to be traded on an exchange and do at least, you know, 10 or 20,000 shares a day in activity, which is nothing, by the way. Um, just barely big enough to qualify to get into some of the super, super, super large indexes that are out there. So, you know what? The other thing is, you don't really hear a whole lot about people talking about individual stocks in depth. They're always covering, they'll talk about a stock, but they never go into, okay, here's what the sales are doing, unless they're collapsing. Because the bad news takes precedence. It does. Don't believe, you know, 4 to 5 stories are negatively inclined. You only get 20% of the good stories, but you got to keep your mind open and aware and be looking for those stories, because that's where the progress really becomes the good stories. You know, Steve Jobs trying to create computers at home. Everybody thought he was nuts. They thought the guy he's insane. And yeah, well, I guess he showed them, right? And a lot of that stuff goes on all the time behind the scenes, and a lot of the components that make up a lot of the cars, transportation, computers, a lot of the technologically advanced stuff, has a ton of innovation in it, and that's not going to stop. I was just talking with somebody I know who has a really, really, really long-term lease on some farmland, and I don't have his permission to tell, and I would never anyway. But electric utility is leasing this guy's land for 30 years, and it's really a great thing. looking at what they're going to do now, just based on what he told me. We only talked about 10 minutes, but it you can read about it online. That's where the future is going. I think at some point in time, internal combustion engines are going away. That could take forever. And so, in fact, I probably won't be alive to see that. I'm in my early 60s. And can't believe I'm saying that. Time just flies. But anyway, at some point in time, I think all power is going to be electric. We're not going to have gasoline or diesel. I'm not sure about the physics on trains, whether or not no. They're using electric engines in trains now. Now that I think about it, I remember reading about it several years ago. So anyway, and that's one of the reasons, when you're investing, you probably want to get into things that make sense mathematically. And funny, today we call them indexes. The index funds, I only know of a handful of people who try to pick stocks by just reading their financial statements and trying to figure out which companies have an edge that's sustainable in the long run. Most of us, even my individual stock models, I have stock models that I used to run them. I used to run most of my business that way. And I looked at when I saw what was happening in the exchange traded fund market. They were coming up with ideas that were so similar. It's like splitting hairs, and they had a big advantage in that if you didn't sell the shares, the only thing you paid taxes on were the small amount of dividends that the stock funds paid. And if you were looking at growth funds, they really didn't pay a lot of dividends. Growth companies that are more interested in expanding their sales, tend to reinvest all the profits that they're making, most of the profits that they're making, and occasionally they might pay dividends when they get a little bigger. But the vast majority of them didn't pay a whole lot of dividends. And so anyway, looking at the processes that they were using, I was using the same processes. It's one of the reasons I started my own firm. I didn't think that, at the time, there wasn't a single solitary fund that was doing what I was doing in the stock market. There were some that were doing things that were somewhat similar, but those funds were big, had been around for a long time, and their growth rates had started to slow down. Now, that was another thing that was really interesting about investing, especially when you're thinking about investing for retirement. People, you want to have some of your funds concentrating on companies whose growth is above average. Now, a lot of people think, well, doesn't that make sense? No, because to a lot of people that don't manage money for a living, they think that you can have it all. I can have a 15 or 20% growth, 4 or 5% dividend, and I'm going to be tax deferred on at least on the capital appreciation until I sell it, and that'll get me all the way through to retirement. Yeah, well, yeah. Good luck finding that stock or this group of companies, because I know you want to be diversified. The bottom line is there are ways of doing that, and exchange traded funds have found it, and they're doing it. I promise you, they're doing it. And so I get a little confused sometimes when somebody wants to do individual stocks, but I've only got about 30 seconds before I have to take a commercial break. So when we come back, I'll tell you what I'm doing with the individual stocks and how it's probably going to differ from what a lot of normal people at home are going to do. And anyway, I'm going to take a real quick commercial break. This is Bill Bullington right here on 1420. Stay tuned because I'll be right back.
If you're a business owner and you listen to AM 1420 The Answer, you might not realize that the conservative news talk content that you enjoy is advertiser supported. To learn how you can reach our audience with your business message, contact Tim Vaughn at 216-525-1818 or click on the How to Advertise at WHKRadio.com. When you advertise on AM 1420 The Answer, our loyal listeners know that you care about the programming as much as they do.
Let's face it, there's a reason Cleveland homes have a stormwater drain line.
Basement flooding can be a real issue thanks to Lake Erie and spring showers.
Now, we hope it's not a problem for your home, but if it is, you know what we're talking about.
And you probably have a sump pump installed, if not more.
What we'd love to do for you is inspect your sump pump for free, because we don't want you to discover problems after things get wet. We'll ensure your pump powers up, turns on, pumps water, is sized properly, and hasn't collected debris in the basin or sump. A full inspection at no cost to you.
And if any problems do turn up,
you'll have just saved yourself some real spring shower headaches.
And our straight-talking, hard-working, do-it-right plumbers will show you the issue.
And explain all your options for a fix. Because no Cleveland homeowner should get surprised by basement flooding.
So call for a free sump pump inspection and
consider it done at WyattWorks.com.
No doubt about it, we're spending more time at home, which is the perfect time to make it more functional and beautiful. Hi, Ed Flash Ferentz here for Artistic Renovations, Northeast Ohio's premier and award-winning remodeler. Artistic did a fantastic job with our kitchen in 2016, and last year, they were back for the master bath. Oh, my word. Do yourself a favor and go to artisticreno.com. Believe me, you'll love their ideas and without question the finished product. For a virtual consultation, call 216-520-0838 or visit artisticreno.com.
You've heard the saying, all good things come to an end. Well, not always. Sometimes they just take a break. That's what's happening with Our Lady of the Wayside's car donation program after 24 years and 96,000 rides donated. Pretty amazing. Here's the story. The car lot's owners sold the property, making it impossible for car donations to be accepted at this time. According to the Wayside CEO, Terry Davis, the next right steps will be determined and communicated soon, so stay tuned. In the meantime, Terry and the entire team at the Wayside thank you for your continued support of the 450 individuals with developmental disabilities in the Wayside's care. And please take note, you can still support them by making a donation at thewayside.org. Thinking about updating your home? Well, Joyce Factory Direct specializes in replacing old, outdated windows. Proudly made right here in Cleveland, Joyce Windows features their exclusive Smart Shield high-performance glass, which means you'll be getting the most energy-efficient windows for your home directly from the factory. Customers just love how much warmer their house is and how easy their new windows operate and clean. Right now, you can save 50% on all installations. Just call to schedule a free consultation with on-the-spot pricing, 440-243-5700, or visit JoyceFactoryDirect.com.
Welcome back. This is Bill Bullington. I'm here every Saturday morning from 11 to noon. If you hear something you'd like more information on, or you'd like to set up a phone call or a meeting in person, talk about your own situation, feel free to go to my website. It's bullingtoncapital.com. Phone number there is 330-664-0700, 330-664-0700, and I'm glad to speak with you. Reading about the Federal Reserve and what they did on Wednesday. That was their last meeting. So they kept the forecast for 2 cuts in 2025 as officials struggle to respond to the double-barreled threat spawned by President Donald Trump's widening trade war, rising inflation, and a slowing economy. See, that's what happens oftentimes when you start putting tariffs on a lot of imports. The United States imports a ton of stuff. So when you start putting the tariffs on it, it has a tendency to slow things down. Anyway, the article goes on to say, although Trump recently slapped tariffs on many imports and unveiled plans for more aggressive duties in 2 weeks, the Fed's decision underscores that it's taking a wait-and-see approach as it assesses the scope, duration, and impact of the fees. What they're saying is, even if it's artificial inflation inflation, which is basically what this is, they're going to raise interest rates. And if they raise interest rates, I'm not so sure Trump's going to like that, because that'll take money right out of the pockets of consumers to pay their credit card bills and anything they've ever borrowed money for. Car payments, car payments are big. I think outside of your house, your car payment is typically your next largest loan that you take out. Anyway, he went on to say, we think the right thing to do is to wait for greater clarity in terms of what the economy is doing. That's good. It's really hard to know how this is going to work out. No, that is trying to predict what the economy is going to do makes predicting stocks look easy. And anybody who knows this that has never tried to predict what a stock was going to do over the next 3 to 6 months knows how difficult that is. So, anyway, we're actually in a pretty good spot. We're not. It's not. I've seen it a lot worse than this. I'm old enough to have been getting out of high school when the unemployment rate was right around 10%. That was rough, and people didn't really think that much about it. I mean, realistically, and they also thought at the time that if you could get unemployment down to 6%, I don't know what the current rate is, but I'm pretty sure it's a lot lower than that. Let me see. I'm looking. Here we go. Oh no, it's giving me a. Okay, no, it's right around 4.2%. In the early 80s, it was hovering around 9 or 10%, and that was considered at the time. That was considered pretty normal. If that were going on today, everybody would say, "We're in a depression." Last time it got to that level was actually 2020, and that was because of the pandemic. But prior to that, it was 2009, and I remember them saying, "Oh, there's no way you could sustain an unemployment rate below 5% for any length of time." That's what I was being taught in my econ classes, and I didn't know any better. And besides, what I found out is really funny is the government agency that collects the data so that they're going to be reporting on. They're also the ones that are making the forecast. I don't know. I'm not saying they're cooking the books, but you know what? If they wanted to, it would be very easy to do. I'll just put it that way. So, but looking out, and that, the other part of that I think is really funny about this, I'll go on a tirade like the one I've just been on for the past 10 minutes, and people will still call in and say, "Well, what do you think the market's going to do over there?" And hey, how about that economy? And by the way, I don't have anybody that speaks that way except me. But they'll ask the question, and thinking that being a professional, you're supposed to know the future. And I'm not asking you to predict when the Browns are going to, or how many points the Browns are going to score next year, or how many games they're going to win. Nobody knows how to do that. But I just want to know what interest rates are going to be. They don't realize that those two things are just as difficult to predict, mainly because you're dealing with the future. So, having said that, if you look at where we are right now, and that would be the way, if you were going to, let's say, you had to predict what the weather was, and you do have to predict what the weather is going to be before you go out if you don't want to get wet. So if you don't want to get wet and it's raining, you can either stay inside or get an umbrella. And the smart thing to do was, instead of running outside first before you saw what was happening, look out the window. And Hey, does it look like it's raining? Well, then bring your raincoat. And hey, well, does it look like the economy is slowing down? How would you know that? Well, take a look at what automobile sales are doing and how many houses have been sold. Those are two of the biggest industries in the country. And if you don't like that, put the budget that these the other statistics are really hard to find. By the way, how much our businesses spending, what our household income doing, but basically just looking out the window. Today you've got internet, which we did not have when I was growing up. I was already grown by the time that became helpful. So you have that, and you can check what the GDP is it contracting, and GDP is gross domestic product. It's a measure of how much stuff is being bought and sold in the United States, and every econ professor is just dying right now because I think I left out so much stuff. But basically, it's how's your economy? If you added everything together, is the economy actually growing or is it contracting? And you added all the services and all the products, and basically there's a service industry, and then there are products, merchandise that you could be buying. How are they doing? How are they doing right now? Is it slowing down or is it speeding up? Maybe it's leveling off. It almost never stays level, perfectly level. But it's kind of common sense stuff. I really think that I wish they'd start teaching this in high school, maybe actually in junior high, because it's kind of important that you know that. It's kind of important that you're familiar with concepts like inflation as you're doing planning for your own retirement. You have to remember that prices are not going to stop going up because you quit, because you're not going to work anymore. So that's something that really a lot of people don't put a lot of thought into. In my industry, the industry itself is putting a lot of thought into, and they have for quite a long time. But I just don't hear an awful lot of people talking about it. It's never on the news, and you have to do what I did and search various websites for answers to this question, like what's the how fast is the economy growing? What is consumption like? Are people still buying? Those are big factors in whether or not the tell you how strong the economy. And the stock market generally is out ahead of the market, typically by a few months. And sometimes the economy gets it wrong, which is hilarious. It's not hilarious. It's just I guess what I'm trying to say here there is that you can look at all this stuff, but there are no guarantees on any of it. When you're looking at what you think may happen, the safest forecast is to take whatever's happening right now and take that out into the future. It will change at some point in time, and know when it's going to change and how much it's going to change. If you can do that, that's because you can predict the future. And I've never met anybody that's ever been able to do that and get it consistently. There are averages. The stock market averages somewhere between 9 and 10% a year, depending on the decade that you're looking at it. And there are some decades where the return was negative. So that frustrates an awful lot of people. Well, how am I supposed to make a projection? Well, you're just going to have to do the best you can. That's all you can do. And I was growing up, everybody was saying, well, the stock market average is about 9 to 10% a year. And looking at the actual return, I never saw it stop at 10% or 9%. And they were talking about averages, and they had never actually had the actual number that they were giving as the average. Because if one year you have 20%, another year you have 0, well, guess what? That's a 10% average for those 2 years. And really simple things like that that affect all the economic reports, but they're never spoken in such simple words or simple concepts. They love to create a whole lot of three-syllable words. Doesn't have three syllables in it. A lot of people aren't even, especially if you get a PhD by just the nature of some human being. Fortunately, not all of us are that way, and some of us like to speak in language or try to speak in language that most people are going to understand, and a large portion of it is unfortunately it's necessary to have more than three syllables on the words. I'll stay away from those as much as I possibly can. By the way, we didn't have any of this stuff when I was growing up. I went to college at Kent State, and back in those days, Kent Library, they had a huge library. They still have a huge library. But at the time, out of the universities in the state of Ohio, we were one of the largest. And I can remember seeing a bunch of students, graduate students from other colleges coming down and visiting our library to get access to some of the data. So I was pretty lucky in that regard that I was right there where I could take a look at a lot of this stuff. Not that a whole lot of it is super helpful, but when you are trying to get an idea, and that's basically what you want to do when you're trying to put a plan together for, okay, how much am I going to actually need when I retire? Well, you can't know for sure what that's going to be, but you can make assumptions, and as long as you're aware of the assumptions, then you can make adjustments later on. And but the biggest problem I see in America is that people wait. A lot of people wait really, really, really late to start doing this. And although it is getting better, I will say that for sure. Younger generations, man, some of these guys are on it, and female, they get it. They were listening. They're good states. Put a lot of money away. I was really impressed with this couple. I saw both of them postgraduate degrees, kids, bought a big house. It was an older house, so they got a really good deal on it, and then they remodeled it. And you talk about Trude. That house looked like it belonged in a magazine, and got it for a lot less money than they would have paid if they were just trying to get that built brand new. I mean, they saved probably well over $100,000, and so these guys really had it going on. I was just like, wow, you guys are doing really, really well. They were asking for my opinion, and my opinion was, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing fine. You don't even need me, and which is true. And in fact, there's with the internet out there today, nobody really. You could look up anything you wanted to. Is it time consuming? Yeah, it's time consuming. Are you going to get a lot of things wrong? Probably, but you'll learn over time. And if you really want to do it, you'll stick with it. One of the reasons I have a job is that when you start to realize how much effort it's going to be, oftentimes people like to reach out for a little bit of help. Anyway, I only got about 10 seconds before commercial break starts. This is Bill Bullington. I'm right here every Saturday morning from 11 to noon, 1420. Stay tuned, because I'll be right back.
Attention! If you or your business is behind in filing your tax returns, or if you owe over $20,000 in back taxes to the IRS, please listen carefully. The IRS does not joke around and will not stop their collection efforts. If you're tired of the IRS letters, levies, liens, or wage garnishments and would like to get a fresh start, BC Tax can help. Due to the financial hardships in the country, the IRS is making it easier than ever to settle tax problems for those who owe more than $20,000. BC Tax can help settle your delinquent tax problems, end all collections, and may even reduce your back taxes significantly. Even if you can't afford to pay your back taxes, you can still get the help you need. We've helped thousands of taxpayers just like you, but you must call 800-214-3995 today to stop your tax problem from getting worse. The information is free and the help is real. Call BC Tax at 800-214-3995. 800-214-3995. Again, 800-214-3995.
Do you ever find yourself saying, I need a vacation? Vacation Fixation can help. At Vacation Fixation, we specialize in all-inclusive trips and cruises to Mexico, the Caribbean, and Disney vacations. Why choose us? Our clients book through Vacation Fixation because they are frustrated with online trip brokers and timeshare scams. Whether it's a weekend getaway, a family trip, spring break, or honeymoon, Vacation Fixation will personalize a trip just for you. Want to know the hottest destinations in Cancun, Punta Cana, Jamaica, or Puerto Vallarta? Interested in room upgrades, beach reviews, or details about resort restaurants? How about finding a trip with a direct flight? At Vacation Fixation, we take all of your specific travel requests and shop our suppliers to find the best deal. What's the cost? Our suppliers pay us so you don't have to. Call 330-573-8147 for more details. Or you can visit our website at vacationfixation.com or check out the deal of the day on Facebook. Vacation Fixation.
Is it finally time to update your bathroom? Bath Planet, a division of Joyce Factory Direct, specializes in replacing and converting old showers and tubs into new, beautiful bathrooms in as little as one day. We have transformed thousands of bathrooms just like yours into a spa-like oasis that has homeowners excited to use their new bathtub or shower. Right now, all bath installations are 50% off. So call to schedule a free consultation with on-the-spot pricing. 440-243-5700 or visit JoyceFactoryDirect.com.
Well, welcome back. This is Bill Bullington. I'm here every Saturday morning from 11 to noon here in 1420. If you hear something that you'd like more information on, feel free to write us at bill@bullingtoncapital.com. You can go to my website as well, bullingtoncapital.com. There's a contact us page there. You can fill that out. And I'd be glad to try to get back to you and help you out as much as I possibly can. I know my tax people are really busy this time of year, and sometimes people have some questions there. We don't do tax work at my firm, but we have several people that we refer people out to who do. And that's one area I would not want to have to do or be an expert in. It is man, you want to talk about change. I thought my industry was bad. There's a ton of change in my industry, but I don't think it. I think it pales in comparison to the tax rules that get changed every single year. What are these guys doing that they need to change them every year? That just blows my mind that has to be done. And again, I think it's a large portion. I think it's called justification for their jobs. And so anyway, I was looking at the Bureau of Economic Analysis. By the way, and this is a free site, and it's bea.gov, and it does a really, really good job. Hope that Trump doesn't try to cut it. He probably will, but because it is a really nice resource. You get all kinds of academic information there, and you can see what the banking systems are doing. By the way, the two of the larger industries in the country, I talked to a little bit further, for housing and automobiles. They're very large. They make up a fairly significant portion of GDP. And kind of decent indicator as to how things are going because home sales, there are a lot of economic indicators that are good, but PCE, personal consumption, I forgot what the stands for, but a whole ton of stuff that you can actually read about right on that website. I think it's pretty cool. I'm just amazed. We have articles on all kinds of other things, and one of the things I would like to see, and I just haven't had time to look up the studies, but R&D spending in technology relative to GDP, that study's been out there a long time. I just haven't done. But I would like to see what the correlation looked like. And it seems to me that there would be some sort of a lag, and oftentimes you can go for a fairly long time without having a major breakthrough. And some of the things that are happening that don't get talked about at all is that is mind-boggling. Like the fact that solar panels have gotten more, and each year they get slightly more effective than they were the year before. And at one point in time, and this was a long time ago, so I'll have to go back and read, but there was a really long time period where the effectiveness of solar panels was increasing by 15% a year. Well, why that doesn't sound too much to an awful lot of people, but let me tell you, your capacity at that point literally doubled every 5 years. So that's a lot. I mean, imagine if you could double your income every 5 years. I would predict that the divorce rate in the country would drop like a rock. You couldn't afford to let that go. But anyway, just kidding. But yeah, a lot of the data that you can need or use, and you want to feel better, like or fact check, the stuff that you're hearing out on some of the news media. Not, I still laugh about the days when I was in high school, and the person that taught the journalism was very, very strict on being accurate with your facts. And so I took that with me out of high school and into the real world, where over time, and for a long time, I think they tried to adhere to that, and at least more so than today. But today, it just doesn't seem to matter. You hear so much stuff, and they don't care if the facts are right or not. It's just mind-boggling. So, because it's nice to have sources, and I like to have more than one source. And by the way, I have a Bloomberg terminal, insanely, because it's insanely expensive to do research, and so that I can do my own fact checking, as far as stuff economically and financially goes. And so I am getting ready to roll out the very first model, and it's a copy of a model I used to run a long time ago, and of which I stopped. Mainly, I didn't stop because it wasn't doing well or not making much money. In fact, I just started it on my own account. It's doing very well right out of the chute. So that now that I said that out loud, it's probably going to crash. I'm just kidding. But it's an old methodology. It's just that when you're managing billions of dollars, you can't do this. You can't limit your stocks to 40. You can't. You'll end up, if you were to try to do 40 stocks and you're a multi-billion-dollar money manager, you are going to create havoc in those 40 stocks that you're holding when you buy and sell them. I am not going to have that problem. I am not holding billions of dollars. And heck, I think if you add everything up together, it's just under 100 million. So I'm not going to affect the market. Those guys are. So we could get away with this, is what I'm trying to say. You can take I just take the top 40 stocks, have the Russell 3000, which stocks are going up the fastest right now. And it's kind of like going to a horse race. These are called momentum models, incidentally. And most of your ETFs use some form of momentum in those, so that it's not like it's super crazy aggressive. It is aggressive, but it's under control with a plan. Now, when other people hear stuff, I can't tell you how many times I've seen people doing something because they heard somebody like me or somebody else describe it. They got this idea and they just knew it was going to be right, and they didn't back test it. They didn't put any rules in place. They just took whatever their interpretation was and ran with it. Bad idea. That's not a good idea. Yeah, you really need to be able to explain your strategy in a fairly simple fashion, but it's got to be complete. Why are you buying it? Why are you selling it when you have to sell? What percentage are you going to put in the overall portfolio? If you don't know those three answers, you don't have a strategy. You're going by gut feel and instinct, and I will sooner or later that has a tendency to turn out not so good. So you really need a strategy. You really need to be able to articulate that strategy without hesitating. Somebody says, "Hey, Bill, what do you call a BCAP 40?" Oh, that's my 40 stock knockoff from 20th century back in the 1970s. Frankly, it is. There were a lot more stocks back then. So anyway, I've got the 40 best performing stocks at the moment in time when I rank the stock. Okay? I'm just going to take the top 40. And then I'm going to, a month later, I'm going to look at it again. And every stock that's still in that group gets to stay. If you're not, you're gone. You're going to get replaced by the stock that took your place. The turnover typically on a monthly basis on something like that is probably somewhere between 15 and 30%. It really depends on what the market's doing. But that's a good, solid strategy, and it's complete. So that's one of the things that upsets a lot of people when they write in or call in or come in, and they really don't have a good, solid strategy, and they really probably wouldn't know, what that is, because they hear something and they have a tendency to want to gamble. That when you're putting your money in the market and you can't describe to me exactly what that fund is doing with it, and you're not an investor, you're a gambler. And I don't like to gamble. I hate gambling. Yeah, if I don't know what I'm up against and haven't gotten a design in place to try to handle unforeseen events. What do you mean? How do you handle unforeseen events? How do you prepare for the unknown? Well, just imagine worst case scenarios. Let's say the market's down over 50%, like it was in 2003. And then again from November 2007 to March 2009. That happened twice in one 10-year time period. How old are you? You think you have a life expectancy longer than 10 years? My point with that is that it could happen again. And if it did happen again, approximately how much would you be down by? Now, you're not going to get it right on the head. But you got to have a general idea so that you can develop your plan around that. And that's the key. That's kind of what I was talking about. And so part of the money I'm using, I'm taking various stock strategies. I'm not going to go above, mine's at 70% because I'm willing to be down 35%. If the market got cut in half, I'd be down at least 30 to 40%, minimally. Would I be looking for a bridge to jump off of? Probably not. Because if I were 100%, well, that might not be too cool. So, especially one thing I've noticed about getting older is you're not as rambunctious. as you once used to be. And some of us more than others, but especially if your name is Trump. That dude is really rambunctious, which I think is kind of funny. But anyway, wish I had that much energy now. Holy cow. But bottom line is, you got a plan. The plans don't have to be, here's my plan for that particular portion of my money. I know what percentage of it is of my overall portfolio. It's not that much. It's less than 25%. Less than 25% put in 40 stocks. You know how much of my net worth is in each one of those stocks? A very small amount. Is it enough to have an impact? Yeah, it's enough to have an impact. But it's not enough to sink my ship either. So if you want to hear more about that stuff, please feel free to reach out to me. This model, I will be doing a seminar sometime probably in early June or early July, and I will show this and show you how I build the model and stuff. But anyway, I got about 10 seconds. This is Bill Bullington. I'm here every Saturday morning from 11 to noon. If you heard something you want more information on, go to my website, bullingtoncapital.com. And with that, you guys have a good week, good investing, and good luck.
You just caught another edition of the Bullington Capital Report, broadcasting every Saturday at 11 a.m. on AM 1420, The Answer. If you have a question and you'd like to speak to Bill personally, you can call him at 330-664-0700. That's 330-664-0700. Or online at bullingtoncapital.com. That's bullingtoncapital.com.
The preceding program has been paid for by Bullington Capital Management, LLC.